Spacefaring researchers disturb an ancient horror. An enchanted object curses a grieving widow. A haunted reel torments a film student. A murder trial hinges on a chilling testimony. HOWLS from Hell. A new horror anthology from HOWL Society Press. Stephen Graham Jones calls it quality horror by true believers who can write. With a foreword by Grady Hendrix, HOWLS from Hell unveils the horror writers of tomorrow with spine-tingling stories from P.L. McMillan, Shane Hawk, J.W. Donnelly, Lindsay Regsdell, Amanda Nevada DeMille, and others. Available now in paperback, ebook, and audiobook from Amazon and most other major booksellers. HOWLS from Hell.
Well, welcome to the HOWLS from Hell release party, everyone. Hopefully my sound's working well. Make sure to admit everyone. Got it. That's what you get for being late. You missed the really cool book trailer, which is a big thank you to Johnny DiCarlo and the Presenters Agency for making that for us. Now, with a foreword from Grady Hendrix, HOWLS from Hell is a collection of horror fiction that has something for everyone. It has stories that range from body horror, sci-fi, folk horror, cosmic horror, and it is actually now available for purchase. Today is the day it went live, hence obviously why you're here to party. Now, I'm going to share a link. You can use this to find where you can purchase it in every form, in every place. So just click that and you can purchase your copy right away, or you can wait to see if you win one today. And I am P.L. McMillan, my name. And I'm actually also one of the writers, one of the 16 talented writers whose story is showcased in HOWLS from Hell. And I will be acting as your MC for the next 90 minutes. And I have a ton of fun things planned for you, not to mention the 7 talented readers who are going to be reading spooky snippets from their tales today, and 4 giveaways in total. Now, make sure you keep an eye on chat. I'll be sharing the social media and website links for each author as they come up on screen, as well as the link to where you can find the book occasionally, because I've got to plug it. They're holding me hostage. I'm not allowed not to plug it, but here we go. Our first reader is Lindsay Regsdell, who lives in Chicago, writing grants for a nonprofit organization by day and dreaming up horror stories by night. She loves to read, game, and cook in her free time. This is her first published story. Now, called A Quick and Brutal Cut of a Story and a Kick to the Guts, A Fistful of Murder by Lindsay Regsdell is up next.
Kill. It was written in the middle of the bill with a thick red marker. I only saw it for a moment as the cashier counted out a stack of 10s for my change. She said nothing. If she saw it, she was extremely good at pretending she hadn't. The red letters disappeared into the middle of the pile as she tapped the small bundle on the counter and handed it to me. $60 in 10s, cash back. Do you want a bag? I only stared at her. What? Do you want a plastic bag for your purchase? She tore the receipt from the machine before folding it into thirds and holding it out to me, along with the bills. I didn't move. My eyes were still fixed on the cash in her hand. She paused and set the receipt and money on the glossy countertop. Then she glanced up at me, eyebrows raised, and her smile began to dim. No, that's okay, thanks, I mumbled. She turned away a second time. I contemplated shuffling through the bills to verify if I'd actually seen what I'd only glimpsed before. I didn't know what I would have done, however, if I'd fully inspected the bill. Even the one small peek at the red letters had caused the hair to raise all along my spine and my pulse to throb in my throat. It was unnerving because I didn't know where this burst of feeling could have possibly come from. I prided myself on being a fairly level-headed, unflappable human being. always had. I decided to fold the bills and slip them into my jeans pocket. The cashier was saying something and I managed to catch the end of her sentence. Did you want me to put some extra oxygen in here for your little guy? We don't recommend waiting longer than an hour before you put him in your aquarium tank. It's fine, I replied, holding up the plastic bag and gazing at my new angel fish. She was drifting in the water-filled, tubular plastic bag, flitting to each corner and exploring her temporary prison. Her silver and black scales rippled as I carefully supported the bulging bag with my left hand. I'm going straight home after this. Well, thanks for stopping by and we'll see you next time. The transaction completed, my cashier left her post and disappeared into the almost empty PetSmart aisles. I eyed her register warily. Did I really see that red word scrawled on a simple bill? Where had it come from? Or perhaps I was imagining things. I was probably fretting over nothing. The uneasy feeling passed, each tense muscle in my body relaxing more with every step that carried me through the doors and out into the sunshine.
Okay, thank you so much, Lindsay, and I'll probably get better at those transitions as I go. But yes, thank you for that sinister snippet. And our next author is Alex Wolfgang, who is a horror author from Oklahoma City. When not reading and writing horror, you'll find him camping, playing the drums, watching movies with his wife, and backpacking around the world. His debut collection, Splinter and Other Stories, is available now and will actually be raffled after his reading. He's been a member of the HOWL Society since May 2020 and is proud to call it his horror home. And his story, Suspended in Light, has been called deeply creepy, quietly unsettling, and effective at building dread. So with that in mind, this is Suspended in Light by Alex Wolfgang.
Julia's nose stung with the vinegar scent of acetate, and she winced at its abrasive familiarity. Fumes wafted from the film while she searched the rusty canisters for clues, but neither titles, nor dates, nor anything else eased the task of identification. With nothing more to guide her, she began the careful process of threading the 16mm reel into the projector. Once the leader was secured around the take-up reel, she flipped on the machine and it whirred to life, the beam of light suspending particles in the air. She opened her notebook and leaned into her chair, relaxing as the hum of the projector filled the barren screening room. The stack of canisters, dust motes, and shadows would be her only Saturday companions. The countdown flickered past, and the scene opened on a man sitting in a plain wooden chair who stared out of frame. An overcoat wrapped his lanky body, and a wide-brimmed hat concealed half his face in shadow. Idly, he stroked his mustache as if lost in thought. Behind his chair was a white backdrop, ruffled and parted like the closed curtain of a stage, and he did nothing but sit there for a full minute. Feeling the weight of her eyelids, Julia gulped down coffee, chastising her formerly drunken self for accepting this job offer. She'd noticed her professor's email around 11 o'clock the night before. 20 euros an hour to classify old donated footage sounded like a dream when she was 3 Belgian beers deep at Café Tyson, but it had since lost some appeal. The man looked at the camera and jolted, the sudden movement jerky and exaggerated by the slow frame rate. Julia jumped too, her heart rate accelerating. The man leaned forward and peered at the camera. Surprise contorted into grim amusement. His nostrils flared with heavy, slow breaths. His unfaltering stare was potent enough to instill the effects of observation. She squirmed in the hard seat, an unnatural, awkward struggle. The man rose from his chair, not flinching when it silently toppled behind him. The hair on Julia's skin bristled, though she couldn't say exactly why, as he approached the camera, feet slow and deliberate as if stepping through molasses. Unnerving as he was, Julia couldn't help noting the film was remarkably well preserved. Few cinch marks, no torn sprocket holes, beautiful contrast in the blacks and whites. The donor must have taken good care of it. Closer and closer the man came, until his features were blurred patches of gray. The amorphous form of his mustache consumed the screen. Then he lowered his face and raised his hand to the lens, twisting it until he was in focus again. His gaze never left the camera, pupils dilating like he could see into the darkness and penetrate the inner workings of the machine. Despite his relative inactivity, she couldn't take her eyes off him. He pulled back, grinning. He laughed hysterically. Was she witnessing the fruition of his life's work? The thought made her smile despite the situation, lessened the sting of being anywhere but home in bed. He readjusted the lens and backed up to the center of the room beside the toppled over chair, then held up a single finger as if to tell her one moment before walking off screen. Julia stared at the chair while nothing happened for over a minute. The waste of film was painful to witness. She bobbed her leg, bit down on her pen. Soon, though, the man returned, lugging a piece of heavy equipment. The metal legs of a tripod gleamed as they reflected a light somewhere behind the camera. A dark box sat at the top, one taller than the man's head. A second camera. She shivered beneath her sweater and folded her arms. Occulted by the new camera, the man tinkered until, apparently satisfied, he stepped around it, grinning. He looked back and forth between the two machines and looked on proudly as they recorded each other for several minutes. Finally, he shut off the new camera, then came center frame again. He stared at the first camera, at Julia, for a long time, arms folded in smug self-satisfaction, like he was the cleverest bastard in Europe. He disappeared off screen again, then returned with the projector. "No fucking way," she said to the empty room, watching him transfer film from the camera to the projector. "There is no fucking way you're about to do this." She laughed to herself, tried to brush the creeping feeling, and yet each movement on screen was stretched to infinity by the invisible tendrils sweeping across her skin. He's just going to show the camera, she told herself. Anything else would be impossible. He straightened the white curtain, then flipped on the projector to reveal footage of the camera, the one which recorded the images she now watched, a film within a film. But it zoomed in further and further until the screening room was swallowed in darkness. Then a point of light grew in the center of the screen with a figure inside it. She whimpered, the sound buried beneath the machine's den. Oh shit. Projected on the curtain was what she'd feared, a screening room with a lone occupant, a young American girl with thick-rimmed glasses, sitting alone beside a stack of reels, chewed up pen and paper resting on her lap. Her analytical mind attempted gymnastic feats. A film that filmed back? Briefly, she considered the possibility of a prank, but even that couldn't explain this. There was no machine, no technology, no possible way this could work. Yet there she was, her own image displayed before her, on a film shot 80 years before her birth. She would have to examine it, frame by frame under a microscope to see what was really there. But first, a curiosity needed to be satisfied. What would come next? The projector spun on and she made no move to stop it. The camera zoomed out and the man peeked his head into the frame, then grinned at her. He mouthed 3 words and she read his lips clearly. "You are mine." He pointed to his chest as he said, "mine." She dropped the pen and paper. Sweat coated her palms. The man held a handwritten sign to his chest, black cursive ink on a white backdrop. On it was written, "Play us forever." He did not avert his gaze. For a long moment he held the sign there, willing her to read all 3 words again and again. Her racing thoughts had no time to dissipate before her projector erupted into a spasm of crackling smoke and sizzling acetate. Julia cried out and lurched away. She jumped to stop the damage, but it was impossible. It wasn't just the section of film being projected that was destroyed. It was the entire reel. The only evidence of what had just transpired, proof of an impossibility. Yet it didn't burn or melt, but dissolved into ash instead. No, fuck no. She tried to salvage some of the film, but it was no use. When she touched the grayish powder, it slipped through her fingers until there was nothing left.
Thank you. I'll mute myself. I feel like I should call out Lindsay and Alex. If the viewers notice, their backgrounds are actually the illustrations their stories have in the anthology. Every story actually has its own illustration, and I'm going to call out poor Joe Donnelly. And just, you don't have to say anything, but this is his illustration for his story, The Pigeon Lied, and which is one of my favorite stories and one of my favorite illustrations. Joe, you should have known I was going to bring you up with that. Just beautiful. So the art was actually done partially by myself and Joe Radkins, who's very talented. You can find him on Instagram. And yeah, it's just a really unique experience. When you buy the book, you're not only getting haunting stories, but really creepy art with it. So on that note, we're actually going to do our first raffle, which is for Alex Wolfgang's book, which will be signed and sent to you. So for Splinter, I'm going to jump. To make it as fair as possible, I found the most free random name selector on the best that the web could offer for me. So we're gonna go ahead and see who's going to win this. I don't know what happened to the last name. I think that's because it had maybe a foreign letter. But let's check. If you're in chat, can you let me know if you're here? Just say hello in chat. If you're not here, I'm going to go ahead and redraw in 10 seconds. Also, yes, you can actually get the pigeon on a shirt. I sell it, as it was a design I made and was quite fond of. So you can actually check out my thread list as I wait to see if anyone is going to claim this. I'll plug my own thread list because I have no shame, as an author shouldn't. Here we go. So yeah, you can check out, get your own Hellbird shirt. It's available in black and white. You can choose your team. And I'm gonna go, I think actually they're just joining. I'm pretty sure I see their name. Maybe. Awkward, wait, let's check. Not sure what the last name is. An imposter. Okay, so Solomon Forse, in case you're noticing him chatting it up in the chat, he's actually the founding father of the HOWL Society, and if he says draw again, I will draw again. So, Elise North, are you in chat? Elise North. I noticed we had, Elise, I noticed we had a lot of no-shows, so it might just be, I'll be drawing over and over again for the end of time. Okay. Pick another name. Clayton, are you here? Give us a sign. Give us a sign. I don't think it does have a pick random participant. That'd be a lot easier. I pulled the Excel document of everyone who got a ticket. So that's a no. So many no-shows. Oop. Oh, I definitely saw Johnny DiCarlo. Let me call out again that Johnny DiCarlo and the Presenters Agency were actually responsible for that beautiful book trailer you saw. So I know you're here, Johnny, because I saw you chatting. So Johnny, I'm going to be emailing you after the event and connecting you with Alex, although being as it is, you could probably contact him yourself, but you can collect your signed copy of Splinter, so congrats. And I can just imagine each of these raffles is going to end up this way, but here we go. So congrats again, Johnny. And the next reader is going to be Thea Maeve. Now, Thea Maeve is a transgender woman currently living in Phoenix, Arizona. She occasionally posts poetry on her Instagram and Twitter under the name @IamThineQueen, if I said that right. But mostly she can be found daydreaming about the upcoming queer communist revolution or cuddling with her dog, Fred. Now, it doesn't mention here, but she's also a Twitch streamer, and you can find her at Thea Maeve TV. Now, her story, Red and the Beast, has been described and applauded by reviewers for being badass and brutal, a dark creative marriage of two familiar fairy tales. So with that, Thea, I'm going to ask you to unmute.
I'm unmuted.
And please read us from your story, Red and the Beast.
Okay. Red and the Beast. Once upon a time, a girl threw a knife and impaled a rabbit through its eye. Pinned to the ground, the small beast made no movement or sound. It merely ceased to live. Red skipped to her latest kill, crunching the dried leaves beneath her boots. The blade slid out of the rabbit's head with a wet scraping of bone against metal. Before sheathing the knife, she wiped it clean against her cloak, the blood camouflaging into the red fabric. Then she slung the corpse into a leather bag. Grandma would be happy with her haul that day. 3 rabbits, a pigeon, and a bunch of blackberries. Red walked on the path through the tall oak trees until a small clearing gave way to a cottage. A cobblestone path led through a vegetable garden planted by her grandma with plenty of carrots, cabbage, cauliflower, and herbs. Her grandpa had built the house of light gray stones from the river, with 2 front-facing windows split in the middle by an oaken door. Bundles of straw dangled from the roof, and a long chimney rose on the right, which fumed wood smoke into the sky as Red approached. When she neared the door, a faint slurping noise came from inside the cottage. Was Grandma eating leftover stew? She pushed the door open further and froze. Before her was an animal, or so she thought at first. Long tusks jutted out from the head of a boar, covered in ragged brown fur drooping atop thick human legs. In its enormous claws was her grandma's body, soaked in blood. Her head hung low from her neck, her eyes locked in a vacant stare. The monster pulled its giant fangs from her chest. Flesh dangled from its teeth as it glared at Red. With a booming roar, the creature spewed the foul stench of blood and carnage throughout the room. Red responded with her own roar, smaller but just as primal. She pulled her throwing knife from its sheath and in one swift motion threw it at the creature. The blade plunged into the fleshy snout between its long tusks. Rearing back its head, the creature dropped her grandma to the floor, blood spurting from her mouth. Red ran at the monster with another dagger already unsheathed. The grisly animal staggered backwards, pawing at the handle sticking from its face. "You little shit," the creature spat in a low, guttural voice. Before Red could attack, it turned and burst through the wall, the stones collapsing beneath its weight. As the creature fled into the forest, the chimney tilted into the new gap in the wall, pulling half of the cottage with it. Red scrambled to her grandma's side, but a falling stone crushed the old woman's skull like a melon. Guts and brains splattered across the floor. Red choked on her breath and fell to her knees. She stared in disbelief at her grandma's headless, crimson-stained corpse. It took a few seconds for the stones and straw to settle into ruins, but to Red, it was an eternity. She touched her grandma's dress and tugged at the fabric, hoping somehow the action would bring her only remaining relative back to life. When the body stayed motionless, she bent forward and cried until her tear ducts ran dry. When the sun dipped behind the trees, casting a shadow over the remains of the cottage, Red decided there was no better resting place for her grandma than the home where they'd both spent their lives together. Red first gathered the fallen straw from the roof and laid it on her body, then one by one laid the stones on top. As Red worked, deep in her gut emerged a bitter aching that, with the laying of each stone, grew into a great anger. Kill the beast.
Thank you so much, Thea.
You're welcome.
So next we have Shane Hawk, who is an emerging Indigenous dark fiction writer. Hawk received a BA in history from California State University, San Marcos, as well as a single subject credential for both social science and English. When he's not working with students or writing fiction, he enjoys the outdoors, photography, and watching classic 80s movies, all with his fiancée, Victoria Fletcher. You can find Shane on Twitter at Shane Hawk with 2 Ks. For whatever reason, Shane Hawk has to be difficult, or at his author website, shanehawk.com. 1 K in that one. Now, his story, She's Taken Away, has been described by reviewers as entertaining and disturbing, an all-around creepy story. So with that, let me find Shane. There he is. And here's Shane Hawk with She's Taken Away.
Hey, it's me. So I'll be reading from the actual book. It just came in today. Hopefully you can hear me. And let's go. All right. It's okay, Annie. Breathe. Let's start over. Can you describe your feelings regarding your sister's situation? Well, I hate it. I hate when she's taken away. Barbara and Father console me by saying she will be back in no time, but she never comes back that fast. It's always a while. I noticed this toward the end of our last session. Is there a reason you call your mother by your first name? She's your birth mother, correct? Yes. No reason. All right then. Scribbles on notepad. And when your sister is gone for all that time, do you feel alone? What goes through your mind? Well, yes and no. I miss spending time with her and having someone to talk to outside of my circle of friends. But I also cherish my alone time. Doesn't everybody? But now, my skin crawls every time I have to stare at that empty chair at the dinner table. You and your parents still eat together at the dinner table? That's good. I know you miss her often, but it is good to keep routines. Broken routines can lead to other things breaking apart. We should avoid disunity. Besides, more leftovers for you, right? Clears throat, offers a forced chuckle. I apologize. That wasn't very professional of me. I know. No, it's fine. You're trying to lighten the mood. I get it. But no, Barbara rarely prepares dinner anymore. No sharp objects and all. Lately we have eaten little. Father's wallet can only stretch so far. Barbara has been ordering dinner from White Castle on Friday nights. We've been cutting corners where we can. Thank heavens the country is starting to recover. Yes, President Roosevelt is doing wonders for us. I'm still sorry. You were saying you cherish your alone time? How do you use your time? And why the word cherish? Oh, I don't know. I sing along to Crosby and Sinatra on the radio, draw in my notebook, or go on short walks. Pay no mind to that last part. My parents don't let me go out anymore. Because of your sister? Neighbors stare at our house at all hours of the day because of her, well, you know. They want us to leave the neighborhood, but I don't think we can. My sister's medical bills and my therapy with you must run their pockets dry. I reckon it's all very expensive. I hate how they all stare. Right. Can we broach that subject today? The incidents, I mean. Do you need more time? I figure it's the fourth session, and we're already making so much progress. I understand if you're hesitant. Long pause. I guess it's okay now. I've been trying to avoid it, but maybe today's the day. Let's proceed then. Actually, could you fetch me some water, doctor? I'm parched. Yeah, allow me to get you a glass. Dr. Landry exits the room. The door clicks shut. Shuffling, a repeated smacking of skin followed by forceful breathing, hurried and indecipherable speech. The utterances abruptly cease. The door clicks open and shut. Dr. Landry's chair swivels and creaks. All right, here we are. Gulps water, slides down the glass. Thank you. Let's start from the top. Shallow sigh. I never thought my sister would be capable of such things. When we were little, she would always set the best example. Good grades, impeccable manners, and she never lied. Somewhere in our early teenage years, we switched. I got on the beam while she received bad marks in school and became a bit of an active crop. Active crop? You know, a girl who becomes a bit boy crazy. Ah, I see. Sometimes the newfangled colloquialisms escape me. Please proceed. Giggles. So yes, just crazy about boys. Later she dated a certain boy, a troublemaker. I became infatuated with him too. That amazing head of hair. Oh well, long sigh. My grades were improving, but it was mostly because I used crib notes. How did that make you feel? Did your status of being viewed as a good twin influence you in any way? I don't know. It's complicated. I'm not sure what I could have done differently. Could I have prevented it all from happening? I don't know. I just know for all my efforts I get bupkis. What's the point? She did some horrific things. The institution's nurses have said that the chemicals in her brain aren't functioning as they should. Synapses, hormones. She has no control over what she does, and neither do you. Don't blame yourself for any of her actions. Oh, I don't. I know she did what she did. There were early warning signs, mind you. Like what? Well, she would pull these schoolyard tricks, harmless pranks. Tying kids' shoes together, placing thumbtacks on the teacher's chair, putting itching powder down the pants of schoolmates, pushing down their pants. Goodness. Yeah, well, that's all innocent in comparison, don't you think? Well, but then she began stealing greenbacks out of Barbara's purse when she wasn't looking. Peanuts at first, but more money later on. Barbara would snap her cap and scold both of us, but I'd always point my finger at her. She always protested it. She was so over the top. It was almost laughable. Who knows where she spent the money? I saw nothing new in her bedroom or at school. Laughable? Interesting word choice, Annie. We must remember that your sister isn't well. Her brain doesn't work like ours. It's out of order. God has a plan for us all, and we must trust that He knows what's best. Perhaps otherworldly beings influence your sister. Demons? What else could drive a young female to perform such unspeakable acts? Laughter. Demons? You think demons made her nail all the neighborhood cats to trees? You think a little red devil forced her to put rat poison in the milkman's delivery bottles? To spread blood and feces all over the gymnasium walls at schools? Well, okay, you're right. Do you know what the worst thing she did? Let's stop it there.
Oh, always leaving us on a cliffhanger.
Sorry.
I was about to say who isn't driven by demons, and then you mentioned the cat part, and I was like thinking my cat's out in that hallway, and I was like, never mind. So on that lovely cliffhangery note, we're doing our second raffle, which is a signed copy of Shane Hawk's collection. Oh, here, let me share. Of Anoka. That product placement, he has a poster on his wall, shirts with it, bath mats. He shaved it into the side of one of his pets, I heard. Beautiful.
No.
So we will be doing that raffle now. I'm sure people are pretty excited for that.
Maybe.
Maybe. Mute yourself, Shane. We're done with you now.
All right.
Here we go. All right. Larry Salamander, which is probably one of the most interesting names I've seen in a while. Are you here? Show us a sign, Larry. Mr. Salamander. Maybe that's probably what it's reminding me of, the girl with the dragon tattoo. Let's see, so it doesn't look like it, so we'll do another. We can start taking bets at how many I'm going to have to do. Here we go. Nicholas Robinson, give us a sign. This is definitely like Phasmophobia. Show us a sign. Are you there? Nicholas, what? You know him? Does he already have a copy then? Yep. Okay, cool. Thanks, Shane. Also shame your friend for not coming. Michael Fowler. Yeah, somebody lay down some salt. Michael Fowler. Oh, he's here? Cool. So Michael Fowler, I will be sending you an email. And right after the show, and get you into contact with the author, Shane Hawk, who's showing his book again. Here, go on. Do so. Wow, we caught that on camera. That's on the recording now. So Michael Fowler, I will get in touch with you afterwards. So yeah, Shane, always just causing trouble. So our next story is by Joseph Andre Thomas, who is a writer and literature teacher living in Vancouver, British Columbia, so a fellow Canadian. He's a graduate of the University of Toronto's MA in Creative Writing program, a recipient of the Avi Bennett, I hope I said that right, Emerging Writer Scholarship and the Canada Masters Scholarship. Joseph's writing has appeared in the Puritan's Town Crier and Untethered magazine. And his story, It Gets in Your Eyes, this is probably my favorite review line he's gotten. This story is full of terror fuel. You'll never be able to have an eyelash in your eye again and not think of this story and weep. And with that, Joseph, where are you? Here you are. This is It Gets in Your Eye.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for coming. This is the opening of It Gets in Your Eyes. I'm also patently jealous of everyone who has a physical copy already. I heard Marnie before I saw her, her boots clomping down the building hallway. Immediately upon entering our apartment, she slammed her two big travel bags against the wall. Hey lady, how was your vacation? I managed only a couple of garbled half sentences before we made it to the bed. She'd just been on an Alaskan cruise with her family and was ready to fucking explode, she said. I didn't last very long. Marnie did most of the work. When we were finished, she threw on a big t-shirt and rolled over, examining herself in her makeup mirror. I think, she said, that there's something in my eye. I leaned over her shoulder to see the reflection. Her left eye twitched slightly. The veins were bright red and thin, like stress cracks on a window. It's been bugging me for the last couple of days. There's definitely something in there, she said. In the freaky enlarged reflection, her tear ducts looked like something out of one of those nasty surgery videos they used to make us watch back in AP Bio. Dirt, maybe, or... Stop touching it, I told her. You're only going to make it worse. Fuck you. Maybe dust, I suggested. Have you tried flushing it out with water? No, dude, I haven't tried flushing it out with water, she responded dryly. She ran a finger around her eye, pulling her eyelid down to reveal the wet, fleshy redness beneath. After a while, we rolled out of bed. I whipped up a taco salad for dinner while Marnie took a shower. When she sat down at the dinner table, the skin around her eye was puffy and pink. So, I said, staring at my bottle of homemade chili lime dressing, how was the trip? Anything exciting to report? We had to social distance the entire time, so I had no one to speak to but my cousins for 3 weeks. We also had to share bunk beds. There isn't an open bar in the world worth that torture. Not sure I would have wanted to talk to anyone else on that cruise, though. I've never seen so many pear-shaped people in one place. Nice of your family to pay for a vacation, though. True, I drank my body weight in free Bud Light. I'm not Her hand wavered awkwardly, nearly stabbing herself in the cheek with a forkful of salad, as if her brain and eyes had miscommunicated. Not complaining about that. Well, I gave her a smile. I'm happy to have you home. Happy to be home, she said. And the fucking employees. I thought cruise workers would be fun. As she spoke, she started rubbing her eye. They were so vacant, robotic, like members of some pelagic cult. I really don't think it's a good idea to keep touching it. Yeah? I think it's a good idea to keep it to yourself, she snapped, fixing that eye on me like a laser. I'm sorry, I said, surprised at her ferocity. I'm just worried that I'm fine. Sorry, she said. I didn't mean to yell. I'm just uncomfortable. It itches. She fully mashed her palm into her eye. I nodded and forced a smile. We finished the rest of our dinner in silence. The next evening, I came home with a cornucopia from the pharmacy, all the eye drops, allergy pills, and skin ointments I could fit on our credit card. Thanks, she said, applying some stinky oregano oil around her eye. But I think I need something stronger. Something's really wrong. I'm going to see my doctor tomorrow. I was going to ask how she was so sure it was that serious. Then I noticed her laptop open on the couch. Have you been diagnosing yourself on Google? I'm not sure that's a good idea. Look, she said, grabbing her computer and clicking through about 40 open tabs. She landed on an enlarged photo of an insect, a creepy red and orange monstrosity. It looked as though several other insects had come together to form an insect megazord. This is Malleus e oculum, a gnat native to the Amazon. It gets in your eyes and feeds on the white eye jelly, the vitreous humor. Jesus Christ, I said, but she didn't go to the Amazon. She shrugged. So there are something like 7,000 billion undiscovered insect species. What if there are other genuses of this motherfucker in other parts of the world? I think you might be making your anxiety worse by looking at this. My anxiety? She said with a sidelong glance. Her eye had turned the color of red wine dregs. I choked back a gag and gave her an apologetic smile.
Thank you. I think you've given literally everyone anxiety. Everyone's mentioning how they're bothered about their eyes and trying not to touch it. So good job. Maybe we should have a 10-second break. Everyone just rub your eyes. It's fine. Maybe wash your hands first. Don't get any kind of jelly eating creatures in there. And so our next reader, who hopefully will not give us eye horror, is Quinn Fern. She lives near Birmingham, Alabama, with her beloved dog and 2 cats. She is a BA in English literature and is a lifelong lover of reading, writing, and all things horror. She can be found on Twitter at Quinn Fern Author. And her story, A Casual Encounter, has been called out by reviewers for being wicked fun and absolutely devious and a feisty little teaser. So with that, let's listen to a snippet of A Casual Encounter by Quinn Fern.
All right. Man-eater, looking for a good time with a bad boy. Professor Cunnilingus, 69. Watch out, she'll chew you up. Ha ha. Hello there, lovely lady. Your photo is breathtaking. I think I can provide what you're looking for, as long as you don't mind a more refined gentleman. Man-eater. Afternoon, Professor. How much pussy did you have to eat to get a doctorate? Professor Cunnilingus, 69. Ha ha, beautiful and funny. I rolled my eyes. Old dudes always have the corniest lines. They're easy catches, though, almost guaranteed. Younger men want to call all the shots, and women of any age are much too wary, so I tend to stick to the older guys. I'd had a few no-shows in my day, but not nearly as many as you'd think. They were so desperate to break the mind-numbing monotony of their middle-aged, middle-class lives. Maybe it was the relentless grind of work and kids in a sexless marriage, or maybe the crushing loneliness of a second or third divorce. They told the same old stories, but I always listened with a sympathetic little pout on my face. Man-eater. LOL, you're sweet. Professor Cunnilingus, 69. I'll bet you taste pretty sweet yourself. Man-eater. Why don't you come find out? We agreed to meet at a motel in 2 hours. It was my go-to place, a mildewing dump, but cheap, and the staff had the wonderful ability of taking notice of absolutely nothing their clientele got up to, so long as the room stayed intact. That hadn't been a problem for me in a long time. I'd learned to be very neat. I got to the room a few minutes early and tossed my sundress over the back of a chair with fraying, faded blue cushions, revealing the silky black slip I wore underneath. Above the lace-trimmed neckline, there was a deep vertical groove in my skin that began just below the dip between my clavicles. I'd hidden it in my photos with practiced poses, torso turned and arms angled forward, pushing my breasts together in such a way as to disguise it within the shadow between them. Not that a little thing like that would be enough to scare away desperate men on skeevy forums. I looked over at the door when 3 quick knocks sounded over the drip and clank of the air conditioner. Right on time. I put on a sexy smirk as I crossed the room and opened the door. "Professor," I cooed, leaning against the door jamb. "Wow," he said, watery eyes blinking at me from behind his wire frame glasses. His hair, a nearly translucent strawberry blonde, was combed ineffectually over a receding hairline. "You're even prettier than your picture." "You like it?" I said, running a hand over my satin hip. "Oh, it's gorgeous," he stammered. "I mean, I'm sure anything would look amazing on you." I giggled and bit my lip. I touched a finger to the knot of his paisley patterned tie. A tie. What a nerd. A prominent Adam's apple bobbed in his throat as I trailed my finger down his chest. He laughed nervously. "Come on in, Professor." I closed my hand around the tie and pulled him over the threshold. He muttered a surprised "oh" as he stepped inside. I shut and locked the door behind him. He stood there, fiddling with his tie. "You're new to this, aren't you?" I asked, sliding my hand down his arm as I stepped in front of him. "Am I that obvious?" He laughed again. I took his hand in mine and lifted it, rubbing my thumb over his bare ring finger. "Not married, though?" "Oh, no," he said quickly, "not anymore." "I see." "Yeah," he said, "it's hard to start over at my age. It gets lonely." "Well, you don't have to be lonely tonight." I stepped forward and placed my hands lightly on his skinny biceps. He was a bit leaner than I liked them, but I was hungry for whatever I could get. "So," he said, clearing his throat, is this something you do often? You're so beautiful. I'm surprised I'm your type." I shrugged. "I enjoy the company of older men." I lowered my voice as if revealing a secret. "Must be daddy issues." He chuckled. "It's Ron, by the way, my name." "Ron," I said, and then told him the truth, since it didn't really matter one way or the other. "I'm Amy." "Pretty name," he said, hesitantly placing his hands on my waist. I stepped a little closer to him, letting my breath play against his neck. There was a small nick from a hurried shave, just beginning to scab. "Are you really a professor, Ron?" "I am, actually. World history." I purred. I tapped the side of his glasses. "I could have guessed. You have the look." He took the glasses off and tossed them onto the seat of the chair that held my dress. His defenses fell as his arousal heightened, breath deepening and eyes becoming heavy as they traveled over my body. His hand slid up my sides, less hesitant than before. Wordlessly, I lifted my arms and he followed my lead, pulling the slip over my head. I was naked underneath, and he looked at me with a hunger of his own. His eyes narrowed with curiosity as they traced the line that bisected my torso from chest to groin. "Your turn," I said, reaching to undo the buttons on his shirt as he removed his tie. When we were both undressed, he cupped a hand around my breast and then, with the other, touched the deep scar-like mark. "What happened here?" he asked. I looked down as if I didn't know exactly what he was talking about. "This?" I asked, placing my hand alongside his. I shrugged. "I was born with it." "Oh, I'm sorry," he said. "I hope I didn't offend you." "Not at all." I wrapped my arms around over his shoulders and caressed the back of his neck. You really are sweet, aren't you?" He must have heard the little pang of regret in my voice. I held no moral qualms about what I did, having needs like everyone else, but it was more fun when I could be sure they deserved it. He lifted his eyebrows. "Is that a bad thing?" "No," I said, "just a shame." The line he'd been tracing with a gentle fingertip opened with the soft, wet sound of parting lips. He flinched and tried to pull away, but my hands clasped tight around the back of his head, nails digging into the scalp beneath his thinning hair. He opened his mouth to scream when he saw the teeth, but I yanked him toward me, and there was time only for a startled gulp before his face disappeared into the carnassial cavity that had just split the front of my body.
Ooh, spooky.
Thank you.
Thank you, Quinn. There's a reason why her story actually comes first in the anthology. It bites you and it doesn't let you go, and you just have to read the rest of them. So we're at our very last story, and my cats are screaming. So if you still hear them, apologies. But our last story, our last reader is the founder of the HOWL Society himself, and I've been given permission that I can reveal his beloved nickname among the community as our Thought Father. And you can ask him why that is so, and I claim no responsibility for such. But with that in mind, I managed to only get partial of the, there we go, it was on 2 pages. So Solomon Forse, also known as Thought Father, is the founder of the HOWL Society. After serving in Alaska with the U.S. Army and completing a deployment to Iraq, Solomon moved back to his home state of Colorado to attain a master's degree in education. He now lives among the lakes and forests of the Rocky Mountains, where he teaches literature and writes fiction. If Solomon isn't reading, watching, or writing horror, you'll find him role-playing horror with tabletop RPGs like Call of Cthulhu, or shredding horror on the guitar in his Lovecraftian metal band Craftion. Follow him on Twitter at Solomon Forse. And his story, Gooseberry Bramble, has been called out by reviewers for being unique in voice and writing and brilliantly written. And with that, let me find the Thought Father himself. Oh, he got pushed. Oh, I saw him. Here we go. The Thought Father, Solomon Forse, with a Gooseberry Bramble.
Well, Your Honor, I suppose that was when it all began, with that warning my grandmammy gave me some 60 years ago. She looked me right in the eye, waving that switch in her hand, saying, "Boy, you stay away from Gooseberry Bramble, you hear?" She said them words near 100 times that summer, back when I stayed at her old lean-to out in the Black Cob backwoods while my pappy, come to find out, went philandering. But Your Honor, if I may address these folks before us today, y'all folks know, like any youngin' with a noggin full of dreams and desire, that warning from my grandmammy only tickled my curiosities, built them up like a heck lot of scratching grows a skeeter bite. If y'all ever had somebody put the fear of God in y'all during your childhood, no matter if it was with a switch, a belt, or an open hand, then y'all know what I mean. When I say it won't even till the 6th or 7th time my grandmammy fell asleep in her rocking chair on the porch, that I finally screwed up the courage to sneak off to Gooseberry Bramble. I remember that afternoon like it was yesterday, tiptoeing and squeaking down them crooked porch steps every time my grandmammy took a gulp of air, snoring every several seconds or so. But when I finally got to the foot of them steps, feeling them pine needles crunching under my shoes, I reckon I was scot-free. Had the same crooked grain I got now, too, except back then I wasn't much more than 2 beanpole legs with a wild bunch of blonde hair. But I figure all y'all men out there remember being boys, so y'all know that feeling I had, heading out for an adventure, even if it meant risking a whooping. Now, I reckon y'all think the last thing this murder trial needs is some rambling old geezer yarning about his boyhood, drawing out the proceedings. Seems like no matter what I say, y'all got your sights set on Mr. Ramblewood over there for the deaths of them dozen children. But I might just change your minds, so listen close. When I swore on that Bible just now, I swore to tell y'all the truth, and that's what I'm fixing to do, so help me God. Pardon me for a minute, Your Honor. Yahoo! Anyhow, back to that summer afternoon. So some half hour later, after I got down them steps and did a whole lot of running and hurrying, mostly because I didn't know when my grandmammy'd startle awake and come a-hollering, I made it to the river. I remember standing there on the shoreline next to that old fishing boat tied up to a tree, Never did find out who owned it, but there I was, dog tired and covered in scrapes and scratches from my neck down to my ankles, 'cause I ran through all them nettle patches and oak scrub. Made it to that shoreline in record time, though, and I remember standing there, seeing them pine trees waving in the wind above a patch of gooseberry bushes right out across the water. Now, all y'all know that sensation you get when you're somewhere you don't belong, especially as a child. And maybe it was a chill rising up off the water or some kind of breeze. But as I looked out at that thicket across the river, a shivering something awful ran up my back like a stranger done snapped off an icicle and slid it up my spine, all terrible and slow. After that, I reckon going in them bushes wasn't a good idea. There was something over there I wasn't supposed to see. But how come my grandmammy got to know about it and not me? I wasn't a baby no more, considering all the chores I was doing around the lean-to, chopping wood, fixing fence, hauling scrap. I was halfway to manhood. And heck, by that time I got through all that scrub, my tummy was a rumbling anyhow. Them berries were gonna hit the spot, no matter what was over there. So I unhitched that old boat and I went across that river. Now, Your Honor and folks, y'all want to hear the rest of my testimony? Then you'll have to pick yourselves up a copy of HOWLS from Hell, a horror anthology, at that old Amazon place or any of them bookstores you can find on your fancy electronic contraptions. But folks, and Your Honor, thank you for listening.
And thank you. I'm just gonna leave you on screen so everyone can kind of enjoy how you look. And so we do have those two last giveaways. We'll be giving away 2 copies of the HOWLS from Hell anthology. And although we can't get everyone to sign them, I have managed to convince Grandpappy Forse up there to put in an individual message for the winners. So if you do win, you can request anything special. And if he's not too drunk on the moonshine, he'll get it to you. But before that, I would be remiss to take another opportunity, because I know a lot of people came late, to show off the really amazing book trailer we have. Again, shouts out to Johnny DiCarlo and the Presenters Agency for making this for us. And I'll go ahead and share that.
Spacefaring researchers disturb an ancient horror. An enchanted object curses a grieving widow. A haunted reel torments a film student. A murder trial hinges on a chilling testimony. HOWLS from Hell. A new horror anthology from HOWL Society Press. Stephen Graham Jones calls it quality horror by true believers who can write. With a foreword by Grady Hendrix, HOWLS from Hell unveils the horror writers of tomorrow with spine-tingling stories from P.L. McMillan, Shane Hawk, J.W. Donnelly, Lindsay Regsdell, Amanda Nevada DeMille, and others. Available now in paperback, ebook, and audiobook from Amazon and most other major booksellers. HOWLS from Hell.
Again, super amazing. So with that in mind, let's give away those 2 copies. Switching all my screens. Here we go. All right, so the first winner of an amazing Thoughtfather signed anthology goes to Melissa Chung. Are you here? Give us a sign in chat. Oh, here we go. We have our winner. So congrats. I will be emailing you after the event to put you in touch with Solomon, and he'll send that signed copy out to you. And then the next one will be going to Lisa Chandler. Are you here? Show us a sign. There we go. We have our 2 winners. That went so much better than the first one. Awesome. So that's everything. Again, I just want to check. We do have some extra time at the end here. So does anyone have any questions? You can let me know if you want to ask it to, and I'll pull that author and put them on the hot seat. So you can ask them anything from inspiration of the story, or why don't they have enough food description in their stories, like Shane Hawk. Favorite food, I like food. So I'll see if anyone has any questions. Okay, this one is for Shane Hawk. This is really important. Did your grandmother approve of this short story?
No.
No.
Mostly
Eric?
because of the cats.
Okay, because of the cats. I can't blame her.
People like cats. I don't know why.
Because they're adorable, and they're just adorable. One of mine, Poe, he's obsessed with socks right now. He doesn't actually care about the millions of toys we bought him. He just he pulls socks out of my sock drawer and chases them around the house. It's ridiculous. Eric.
It's a really good
Eric is
anecdote.
a troll just like you, so he asks, did you ever once consider getting a sensitivity reader on your story? And I would like to call out, actually, this is a huge call out to Solomon Forse and the amount of effort he went into with the anthology. Not only was it like a huge group effort of peer reviewing that went on for, I don't know, Shane, since I have you, it was like 3 or so months. We were just peer editing. We went through 3 or 4 rounds of
I've been
editing.
down for a month or so.
Yeah. And after that, it went through a specialized copy editing review. And then we did actually have 5 sensitivity readers, I think, read all of them and call out anything they thought who weren't involved with the anthology, just outsiders to read to make sure we actually weren't doing anything dangerous. Or
Mine got flagged 5 times.
I'm not surprised, Shane, you are a troublemaker.
For poor research.
So then the next one, I'm going to get rid of you. Oh, I can mute you. That's good. Thank God. I'm just kidding, Shane. What was the weirdest sandwich in the anthology? Well, it wasn't cheddar and jam, although if you join the Discord, you can actually use custom cheddar and jam sandwiches as emotes. I'm going to, for this question, I'm going to put this to Solomon, because he was the main organizer of the anthology, and we actually left it to him to choose the table of contents. So, Solomon, do you want to share your video again? I can see you're not muted, so you can't.
What's the what's the question?
Okay, add. What order would you recommend reading the stories in that is not in the table of contents story?
That's a good one. I would, I mean, that's a really tough question, but I would say that the opener and the closer are equals, and there's a reason we set it up that way. So I would love to hear from somebody who reads it backwards what your experience was.
And just to call out, the closer is Lindsay Regsdell story, A Fistful of Murder, which just ends it on quite the punch. Molly, I'm not showing you Poe. He's probably running around with a sock. Julie asks, the best sandwich pairings for your moonshine.
What was the question?
What are the best sandwich pairings for moonshine?
Oh, I'm going to have to recommend pickles and peanut butter.
Oh, I'm glad you shared that right now. Poe's just going through a big sock phase right now. That is correct. A lot of sandwich suggestions, and it's Poe like Edgar Allan Poe. Manwich. Oh, that is correct. I guess the most interesting sandwich combination would be Quinn Fern's story for the Manwich. Excellent. Let's see. Oh, here's one from Elise. I would like to ask Thought Grandpappy who will be chosen as this year's Harvest Lord and Corn Maiden.
Ooh, that's a fantastic question. We should make that a ritual for next year's anthology. And I think there's a reason that a pagan ritual would work really, really, really well for that anthology, for those of you who know why. Let's hold on to that. I'm gonna make a note of it.
Okay.
We need more corn. More corn. Always more corn.
Always use more corn. Okay, so I'll send you back because this next one is to me from Pirate Twinkie. P.L. McMillan, what was your inspiration for writing Manufactured God? So I have a soft spot for sci-fi and cosmic horror, and I actually had somebody ask me if I would ever write something similar to The Mummy. Like they wanted like scarabs, they wanted a mummy, and I guess I mean, you can't top The Mummy. It's already been done. It already has Brendan Fraser, so there's nothing I could do. But I thought about it, and I've always been a big fan of mythology. I took a lot of courses on it in college, being like Egyptian, Greek, Roman, and Norse. And so I really like the idea of Anubis, and then I just kind of ran with it because you got to have the big kaiju as well in cosmic horror really half the time. And so that's probably where it ended up, was just my love of mythology and a general request for Egyptian horror from me. So thank you for that question. I remember your review and it still warms my heart. Let's see. And actually, Poe has been hiding in the room with me and now he's looking at me. I don't know how he got in, but.
Cat.
Okay, I'll get the cat. Poe, you want to come
Hopefully Cheese Dance is still here.
She might be. Let's see.
I don't think I'll be able to speak tomorrow.
Oh yes, shout out to M. David Clarkson, who isn't here, but has the best opening paragraph ever, says Lisa, but I would argue the best just opening sentence. Scrolling down.
Like a
lot
ketchup
more.
packet.
Shane Hawk asks, who manufactured my god? Obviously I did, because I am the god. So get over it. If you keep this up, I'm not going to mute you for the rest of this whole thing. Let's see. Oh, question to Anthony, where's Dave? Let's see. There's 71 new messages. I'm scared. I'm like still scrolling down. Does anyone see any?
Yeah,
Wait.
Auntie Mame. Hello, Auntie Mame. Hello, Elise. She asks, where's the best place to leave a review for maximum impact? I think the two big places for us are Amazon, because we have like 60 ratings, but this was before our book released. So right now on Amazon, we have 1 review. So I think getting some on Amazon is really big for us right now. And then of course, Goodreads helps as well. That's a good question.
So this is Poe. Oh. Hi, Poe. You a good boy? He's unbothered. So Shane's waving his arms. So thank you, Solomon.
Thank you, Alex, for submitting your review. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
We greatly appreciate everyone who left a review. It's amazing. It's more than we can ever ask for. Super cool. Let's get Shane. So Shane, you're waving your hand.
What?
Oh, I thought you were waving your hand because you saw a question.
No, I never raised my hand.
Oh Lord, you're.
Now you know what it feels like. Well, you have been a teacher, so you know this feeling. PL.
Yeah.
True.
It's true. It's just embarrassing now.
Get some bookshelves. I have one, dude.
Let's see.
It's freaking right there.
Okay, I think I'm caught up. But yes, so I just want to thank all the authors here for taking the time out of their schedules to read for everyone. And everyone else, just thank you for joining us in celebrating the release of this book, which was a huge, you know, project of love for the HOWL Society. And it's the anthology Howls from Hell is written by horror lovers for horror lovers, really. And again, don't forget to grab your copy. It's available now. And if you could be so kind, as Solomon said, if you leave a review, it really, really helps us. I mean, it puts us ahead of the algorithms, which are really pesky for indie publishers. And a lot of the people who are published here, it's their first stories to be published, and it's just amazing to get that kind of exposure. And seeing your name in a review is just an amazing feeling. So I'll go ahead and unmute the authors in case they want to say goodbye. I know I'm missing one. Where are you?
Hey, and thank you so much to PL for putting this on. She spent hours and hours and hours planning this. And so thank you so much, PL, for volunteering your time. Just so you guys know, Manufactured God is like one of the best stories in the anthology. And pretty much every reviewer has raved about it. And if you're into sci-fi horror, like, you know, something like Alien or The Thing, or you like Egyptian themes, you should really read it. It's such a great story, as is all her work. But thank you so much to PL for putting this on, because it took a lot of courage to put this together. So we all appreciate you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
That's gutsy coming from the guy who voluntold me to do it. But, you know, I'll accept it. I'm
more padding.
No, I did volunteer to do this. I've been in quite a few readings, so I thought it would be a good opportunity to kind of host one, because having been in them, I knew a lot of the things that I liked to see and didn't like to see.
Oh,
He's like a little gentleman.
it's, I don't know where mine is right now, or I'd show him off, but
How much are you selling your cat for?
Nothing. You cannot have my cat. Not after that story. Your grandma wouldn't allow you. My
I would
God,
use a
you should
staple.
never own a cat.
Use a staple gun, not a nail gun.
Oh my Lord, Poe, you shouldn't be listening to this. Okay, just go down there.
Everyone's faces is like what I love. I love everyone's faces right now.
But yeah, so thank you again, everyone. For the winners, I will be emailing you just as soon as I end this. And if you want to rewatch it, or if your friends didn't manage to make it today, we will. I've been recording it, and we will be uploading it to the HOWLS TV YouTube channel, which is up and coming. So it will be available for future viewing. So again, thank you, everyone, and I guess that's it.